Hey, hey, awesomes. It's your girl, Caree, on AWE Radio, where we are unapologetically empowered and always on with information and inspiration for your transformation. Welcome again to another episode of Her Woman Evolves. And I could not be more excited about the very special and humble and gifted guest that we have with us today. Let me just, before you even hear her voice, let me just give you a little bit about who we have here today. This is Miss Sharon Epps. She describes herself first as a woman of great faith. She is a poet, a spoken word artist, a storyteller, which you will see in a minute, an author, a motivational speaker, mentor, actor, community activist, mother, grandmother, sister, friend, and so much more. But what Miss Sharon Epps mainly wants you to know about her is that she is a daughter of God using the gifts he gave her. She resides in the Lake County area in Illinois with her children and her grandchildren, and she has generously agreed to come on as our guest today of AWE Radio for this episode of Her Woman Evolves. Hello, Miss Sharon.
Hello, everybody.
How are you? We're so honored to have you with us today. You know, you are, I didn't say it, but I'm going to throw out this shameless plug because I'm so honored that you are a member of the Empowered Woman, which is my private Facebook group. And we recently, as you well know, did our very first artist showcase, and you were our guest and you turned it out. I know you're humble, but I just want you to know you just blessed us so. And people are still talking about that. So much so, folks, I said, you have got to come on this radio show to share just who you are, your story, and fortunately, a lot of some of your art. We wanted to hear and share it with a broader platform. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for bringing that here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I am only because God loves me.
All right. That definitely resonates with us, Miss Sharon. That definitely resonates with us. So let's get into it here. So looking over your life experiences, how would you describe, if you had one sentence, because then we're going to peel this thing back and break it down, but just looking over your life sentences, if there is one sentence you can use to describe your woman evolves, what would it be?
My woman evolved experience would be sisterhood doing good.
I love that. Sisterhood. Folks, did you hear that? Sisterhood doing good. That's amazing. That is amazing. Well, tell us about it. Tell whatever you want to share. Tell us about your personal journey.
My personal journey with Woman Evolved?
Just your own personal journey.
My personal girl. My personal journey, when I really realized I was on the journey, is when God woke me up. I was just existing in life, just going through the motions. And I found myself in the crack house.
Wow.
And since I couldn't get out, I decided that I would just stay there and be the best crackhead that I could be.
Wow.
And after a couple of felonies, police kicking the doors in, FBI, suicide attempts.
Wow.
God told me, it's time.
Wow.
You've hit here too long. It's time.
Wow.
And sorted me out. I had a spiritual awakening in the crack house.
Wow.
And I always knew I was a good girl, but just being on drugs, that don't mean that I was a bad girl. I was a good girl doing bad things, making bad decisions for myself. Running like Noah. He found himself in the belly of the whale. I found myself in the crack house. But God is so loving and gracious that he escorted me out a 20-year addiction. And that's when the journey really started, because I knew by holding his hand, I was going someplace.
Wow, that's amazing. First of all, congratulations to getting on the other side of that. That's amazing. You talked about, I love how you said God escorted you out. And this is for our viewers, when you're in a position where you're feeling down or you're experiencing some type of addiction, whatever that addiction may be, because we know there are many kinds of addictions. How do you position yourself to hear the voice of God?
I did. It's screaming. That's my addiction. In Ephesians it says, "I love the Lord because He heard my cry."
Yes.
Well, I was in the back. I was at the crack house, and I was dispensing some drugs. And I was being robbed by 4 men, and they put a Tech-9 in my head.
Wow.
And at that moment, I don't know if it's an automatic reflex, but my hands went up in the air. But the ones with the drugs was closed tight. If I wouldn't let them go, and I prayed, and I don't know, Lord, help me, don't let me die. Not like this, God. Not with my brain shot out for a handful of drugs. And God said, open up your hand. I said, huh? He said, open up your hand. And when I opened up my hand, the drugs tripled to the ground. The 4 guys, they went after the drugs, and God grabbed my hand and walked me right up out that situation.
Wow.
And I'm hearing God. And I'm like, I hear you.
Wow.
The reality that God was talking to me, this crackhead that everybody that I had ran away from, my mother, my father, and all my friends and everybody, because I didn't want, I was living that crackhead life, and I wasn't around people being normal. I was really in the insane. I was back in the night. I was a lurking demon, doing the most. But I couldn't stop myself. And I wrote in a poem and said, how in the hell do you stop hell? It takes God to stop hell.
Wow.
It takes a God to come up in here. You might start something. You can open the door to let the devil in, but it takes God to come in and get him out.
Wow. Your story is so amazing. And I have to ask you first, 2 questions. One is, what was the turning point? What was the thing that put you in a position where you said God was screaming at you? Not only was God screaming at you, but that you would hear the voice of God and turn your life around. What was that one turning point, would you say?
My children.
Ah.
I knew that I wasn't worthy to be their mom. And so I had seen my Social Security papers had came in the mail, because I had a 12-year, I had a job. I started working when I was 14 years old, and I had a job. And I was the assistant manager of a Great Lakes Naval Training Center, a little G-dunk on the naval training base. I had been there for 12 and a half consecutive years. And I saw my Social Security papers came while I was at the crack house, and I seen 7 years of zeros. I seen my money go from being a youth job, and I've seen it go up, and then I've seen it dwindling down.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it said that if I was dead, that my children could get so much money a month.
Wow.
So I decided to kill myself. And let my 20-year-old son take care of my 2 and my 4-year-old daughters. And they would have that money, and I figured they'd be better off without me. And I miserably failed at trying to kill myself. And I woke up mad, angry, and I'm talking to God. And God told me something. He says, you got it wrong. You're using people and loving things. You're supposed to love this thing. And so I'm like, then God told me to find something I earnestly acquired with my own hands. And here I am in this drunken, crackheaded state of mind, but I'm like, earnestly acquired with my own hands. So I knew it had to be God. I didn't talk like that.
Wow.
My conversation was not, but God says, find something I earnestly acquired with my own hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm tearing up a 2-bedroom apartment looking for something that I earnestly acquired with my own hands.
Yeah.
And all I found was my Bible and my class ring. They were mine because they had my name, Sharon G. Epps.
I gotta ask you, that's amazing. I'm getting chills just listening to your story. So what do you say to that woman that's sitting in whatever part of the world that she's in, and she's finding herself in the throes of depression or in the throes of addiction, and she doesn't see any way out, and she, like you, may think that those around her, those whom she loves, would be better off without her? What message do you have for that woman?
That woman, I would tell her to cry out to God. To cry out to God. See, sometimes we think or we feel, but God isn't a thinking or feeling God. He is a knowing, loving, and accepting God. And He said He would never leave you nor forsake you, and He's faithful. Sometimes our feelings lie to us, our thoughts lie to us, and we need to know that. And all we got to do is He's waiting for you to cry out.
Wow.
He's waiting for you. He's right there.
He's right there.
He won't force you. But if you open up your mouth and just say, Jesus, you invite Him back in.
Wow. He's always there, just waiting for you, and His arms are right there open. That is powerful. That's a message in and of itself, and one that I know resonates with somebody who is listening to this program today. I really thank you for that. Now, how did you take all of that experience, all of that wisdom, all of that knowledge, and transition to speaking and mentoring and poetry and storytelling? How did that come about?
God took all that mess that I went through and made the messages. And I'm absolutely honest with everything, because you cannot lie to God. You cannot lie to God. He was right there when I went through everything. So I don't try to hide anything. But when I shed light on the shame that I felt, then it empowers me not to be ashamed.
You take the power away from the shaming thing, and it empowers you. I love that. That is a nugget. That is a nugget. Well, I don't want to waste any time. Let's get into the art. Let's get into it. Again, everyone, you're listening. If you're just tuning in, I'm talking with Miss Sharon Epps from Lake County, Illinois, poet, author, storyteller, woman of faith, grandmother, mother, the works. And we are about to hear some amazing original works from her. So put your seatbelts on, ladies and gentlemen who are listening, and let's love virtually. Miss Sharon. Miss Sharon, tell us about your first piece that you are going to present.
Generational struggles.
All right.
Generational struggles is me watching my daughter being a mother to her daughters, and so I saw the struggle because my daughter, it's called generational struggle, and I was seeing the struggles, and I'm seeing my granddaughter's struggles, and I'm seeing my struggles, and I'm like, this is 3 generations, and we all struggling here.
Wow.
So I wrote this piece. She struggles to discipline her children as her children struggle to take her control. And I struggle to stop myself from struggling, from stepping in to stop her struggle for her control. I struggle to stay silent. I struggle to not say what I feel. I struggle, I pray, and I struggle because I know that the struggle is real.
I love that. And this is in full transparency, folks, this is my second time hearing this amazing piece. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the first time was in the Empowered Woman's private Facebook group where we have an amazing group of women. Sharon is one of those, of course. And this sparked such an interesting conversation around what generational struggle really is. And so there was a lot of talk about, how intentional you are with words, because you didn't say generational curse. You said generational struggle, because sometimes we have to sit in that and know what struggle is in order to break it and to get out of it. Is that right?
Yes. I'm not going to speak curse into anybody's life, but we know what a struggle is. We could say generational fight, generational struggle, generational challenge. So I try to use words to empower. I intentionally write not to speak down, but to uplift, encourage, and motivate. Because anybody can struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can struggle. Little babies struggle learning how to walk. Struggle for them at first until they master it. So a struggle. The struggles are real.
Yes.
No matter how minute they are, they're real.
Yes. And there's hope. You can definitely get through it and get over it. And I noticed that you talked about not just struggle, but generational struggle. Like you said, mother, daughter, granddaughter. It can go from generation to generation, but until you recognize the struggle, there's no getting through and over the struggle. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree.
Yes.
Because I'm going to step in to my daughter, and I disempower her with her children. And then her children, they dismiss her as their mother. And they look, and I'm telling them, this is what you know. I have to let her stay empowered to do what she needs to do for them, and for them to be obedient to her. See, her children need to be obedient to her. If she says stop, they need to stop on a dime, because she might say stop. It might be saving their lives from running into the street or getting, doing something that would harm them. So I can't disempower her. They know that they have to listen to her voice. And then I can go back to her and say, and she can hear my voice as I give her my wisdom. And I say, well, daughter, you might have could have handled it this way. Could you look at it that way? Instead of me stepping in, don't say this to my friend. No, I can't break in there like that. I can't disempower her with her daughters, because then her daughters will disempower theirs.
And you know what I hear? I hear in this, and then we'll take a short break. and come back in again, folks. This is Miss Sharon Epps, amazing storyteller and poet, just blessing us with these wonderful nuggets and this beautiful gift. What I hear you talking about in this generational struggle is in sitting in it and acknowledge it and seeing it emerges generational power. So just like the struggle can get passed on, so is the power that comes from the struggle. It also has the power to be passed down as well.
Yes.
That's all right with me. That is all right with me. I'm going to say it again, folks. This is AWE Radio with your host, Karee, where we are unapologetically empowered. And speaking of being unapologetically empowered, we are chatting with the great Sharon Epps out of Lake County, Illinois, who is a wonderful storyteller and telling stories out of her own experience, which is the best kind of storytelling from my perspective. We are going to pause for a station identification break, and after which we will come back with more storytelling from Miss Sharon Epps. Sharon, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.